Everyone, my name is Courtney of Curls and Couture, and I'm so excited to bring you guys this video. I really wanted to do a conversation series with some amazing women that I've met in the industry, and to give you a point of view on a bunch of different topics. So without further ado, here we go. All right, so let's just get the conversation started. First of all, thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate you coming and taking the time, because I know that it's Fashion Week, so it's crazy. So I really just appreciate you guys coming out. Obviously, we're here to talk about being women of color in the industry, and specifically influencer industry, and how that's impacted us, our views, our thoughts. We don't often get to have these types of conversations, especially with a large variety of women. It's usually privately, so I just wanted to open up the space for us to have these type of conversations. The first thing I actually want to talk about, because we have two veterans in the room, Danielle and Kia. And so I'll let you guys actually go ahead and introduce yourselves. And
Danielle Gray. I started the Style and Beauty Doctor back in 2007.
Oh, wow.
When you really didn't tell people you had a blog, because it was kind of like a lot to explain, and people thought that it was kind of weird where you were like talking to your online friends about beauty and makeup and fashion. I started it though because I was working in finance and I desperately needed a creative outlet. I had gotten my degree in marketing, went to FIT, got a certificate in image consulting, started an image consulting business, and said, you know what? I'm gonna start a blog because that's what I'm gonna use to kind of attract clientele. And then I realized, like, if I kind of tweak the way that I do my blog, I can reach more people. So the platform that you see now is what it wound up evolving into. What is it, 13 years?
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah.
But we did it.
And my name is Kia. I know most of you guys. I started my YouTube channel in 2011 because I broke my ankle. Playing football, broke my ankle, and I was like on bed rest for like 2 months. And all I would do was just sit home and just binge watch Gossip Girl all day long. Right? So I had 2 surgeries, and I was taking like crazy pain medicines. So like my face started to break out. So I started to like Google like remedies. Couldn't really find any good remedies. So then I like stumbled on YouTube and started watching all these makeup tutorials, because I just wanted to cover it up at this point. I wasn't really big into makeup or hair or anything like that. I often talk about my struggle with hair and how creating my YouTube channel made me like appreciate hair, because I was an athlete all my life, and hair I felt like was just a burden. It was just like always in the way, always had to be done, it was always this, always that. And so creating my YouTube channel kind of like helped me appreciate my hair. And so like the back to me watching YouTube videos all day, then eventually I had like this aha moment, like these girls can do it, like why can't I? And I've always been like super creative and really into DIY. I used to just DIY any and everything, jean shorts, sunglasses, tops, anything. I just always loved fashion, but I never really thought about having a career in fashion, because I don't know, that wasn't something that we were exposed to, especially us as Black people. I think resources and just being in those arenas is just not something that happens. And oftentimes we look at our parents and our older siblings as an example of what the footsteps we should follow.
Right.
My parents, worked all their life. They plan on retiring, and that was the model that we followed. And so I've always loved fashion, always been really creative, but I ended up getting a degree in criminal justice. I wanted to be a lawyer, yada, yada, yada. So back to starting my YouTube channel, I started it just doing DIYs. Like my first DIY was distressed jean shorts, and this was before you can walk into Urban and get a pair. So it was like highly sought after. Everybody wanted to know how to make it. And so from that video, it kind of like exploded from there, and I ended up going back to work. Couple months later, I ended up getting laid off. I thought it was like the worst thing ever. I felt like it's an ego thing. Even though I hated the job, I've always had a different kind of relationship when it came to working. I never really could work for anybody else. Like I'm the type of person that if I don't like the job, I'll leave, and I won't even care about the money. You'll never hear me again. Like there's plenty of times I would go in, like telemarketing was a job that I had a lot, like especially like when you're trying to like have a job between college and stuff. So I would go in 8 a.m. By lunchtime, I'm out, and you're never hearing from me again. So like that entrepreneurial spirit, or just always working for yourself, was always like in the back of my head, but I never knew how I would be able to do that. And so once I got laid off, I kind of like dedicated a lot to my YouTube channel, and it blew up. And luckily, I was still living at home with my parents, so I didn't really have any bills other than like my cell phone bill and maybe car insurance. So I was able to really like develop my channel, and at first it started with, you know, DIYs and fashion stuff, but people started inquiring about my hair, so I started doing more hair tutorials, and this was like the pivotal point as far as the natural hair movement in 2012. And so I'm learning my hair, like back to the point of me just not having a relationship with my hair was a burden, and then going through like the transitioning phase of loving my hair and seeing it in its natural texture. So as I'm learning it, my audience is along for the journey as well. So they're inspiring me because they're inquiring. They want me to do more videos. So I started doing more hair videos, and yeah, it just kind of like blew up from there. I eventually, you know, found another job because living in New York was hard. I ended up moving out of my parents' house to move back to New York. And so I knew I needed more than one income, and I wasn't really making that much money on YouTube. There was no sponsorships, there was none of that. There wasn't a such thing as an influencer back then.
Right.
I remember like my first couple of like brand deals, I would say it was like an exchange. Like, we'll give you these products if you post, or you give you these products if you do a video. And I thought that was like the greatest thing ever. I remember the first time I got like a package for clothes. I was like, you gonna give me clothes for free? To do what? Hell yeah, count me in. Yeah, just see where the space has like evolved to, and like it's incredible. It's $1 billion industry.
Yeah.
And to know that I was like one of the pioneers, one of the first, like in the beginning, that's actually still doing it today, and you know, actually doing something and growing and learning and progressing. It's amazing.
Yeah. That's like, so I started in 2011, 2012, but Kia is part of the reason why I actually got started, because I was like, she was transitioning before I had transitioned, but I was watching people. That's what I do. I watch people and I see how they do. I'm like, let me see how easy this is or how hard this is before I take the jump. So I was watching Kia, and her videos helped me, and so it's crazy how like I kind of watched you grow. But how do you feel like the industry, specifically for you guys, to start all the way back in 2007, like that's insane. How does it feel to start all the way back then now, and to see how it's progressed from here, especially being a Black woman?
A lot has changed, and you kind of have to move with the changes as well, which I think is a good thing too, because it helps you to grow as a person. Because if I was still moving the way that I did when I started my blog, like I wouldn't even be here today. You'd be like, who that? Danielle? Like what? So I actually appreciate a lot of the changes. There's certain aspects of the industry that can kind of suck, like, you know, that weird moment in between when you keep it a secret that you have a blog because people think you're a weirdo talking to people on the internet, and the moment when brands started to like pay attention and pay, that was kind of murky, because it was kind of like, okay, like Kia, like when she said she got excited about getting a box of clothes, like I remember like the first time a brand like even reached out to me to send me like makeup or something like that, I was super excited. And then when you go from that to where you realize that this is a viable business and, you know, an income stream that you can get from it, a lot of it, you understand your worth, but then the brands aren't really getting it. Well, the brands get it, because they reach out to you for a reason, but they think they can get away with okie doke. So that part of the industry, like that kind of like weird time where brands were just like trying to get over on us. I mean, they still try to get over on us, but I feel like collectively, a lot of us are a lot wiser now. A lot of us have found our voice. A lot of us aren't afraid to be like, yeah, nah.
Right.
So, and I think conversations like this is what's really important, because you know, I feel like we've all been in a situation where we felt like we were burned after the fact, and if we don't have those conversations with one another, like, we'll never know that that's not right.
Yeah. You know? So I actually want to address everyone in the room, because I want to know, like we talked about, you know, Danielle and Kia being, you know, evolving in this space, but just in general, because everyone's position here is different. So how do you feel just as a woman of color in this space, and all being different? Like how does the space impact you, or how do you feel that you've added to the space?
I think something that I learned from doing this for a while, I started in 2015, is definitely like being yourself 100% is super important. I think we get really caught up because there's so many of us, and it's so hard because there's like competition everywhere, but I think the one thing that's got me through everything is just staying true to who I am, what I love, working with brands that I really connect with, and just making sure that I'm always myself throughout everything. Like any decision, any negotiation, any collaboration, doesn't matter. Just make sure you're comfortable with what you're doing. And I think that's what kept me like level-headed, because it's hard.
Yeah. Do you feel like, because, you know, like if we think about it, as Black women, we are sought after right now. Like we are being dark skinned, having natural hair, like that is, we are a commodity right now. So do you feel like your opportunities have gotten even greater since you started because of the fact that you're a woman of color?
To be completely transparent, like I've had an identity crisis since I was like born. I grew up in a predominantly like Caucasian area in Staten Island, and I've always had to deal with like, you're not white enough, you're not Spanish enough, you're not black enough, look at your hair, look at your mom, look at your dad. So like when I came into this space, like I knew it was gonna be like troublesome because I didn't know what to do with my hair. My mom has straight hair, so I was just like, hey, does anybody else have these issues? And again, like I stayed just true to myself, and I was like, y'all, I use this shampoo and like it doesn't work. And then somebody else would be like, hey, this works for me and I have this texture. So it was always like a battle of like trying to fit in and find my space, but then I kind of like circle back to like, Ty, just stay true to who you are. And like there's so many women that are mixed and have your type of hair and go through the same thing. But when it comes to like, you know, opportunities, I feel like I've kind of gone through it all. Like somebody had actually reached out to me and said like, hey, like we want to use you as the Spanish girl, but you can't say you're black.
Oh my God.
And I was just like, well, this isn't gonna be for me. Because that's one thing I am is vocal, and as soon as someone asks me like what my ethnicity is I'm gonna tell you exactly what I am. So I think it's like, you just have to know who you are in the space, and everything else you'll get the opportunities you're supposed to because you're being yourself, and that's really it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to learn is just what's for you is for you. Like,
Right.
You know, there's a lot of, you can feel a little slighted, a little jealousy, you know, well, why did she get this opportunity? Why not me? Like, everybody's time, we all have a time. Maybe it's just not yours right now, but wait, be patient, and it will come around. It's like I said, what's for you will always be for you. Nobody can take that from you. And those thoughts, they're natural, especially like we're women, we're brought up. Society kind of makes us seem like everything has to be a competition. You know, you just do things because they're for you. When you're who you are, nobody can ever take that away from you.
And I think that's super important to understand that. Like, I want to co-sign that so hard because I think a lot of times you lose yourself, especially depending on what age you are when you get into becoming a blogger or influencer, whatever the heck they call us these days. even if you're someone who's a little older, sometimes it's very easy to lose yourself in this. And I myself, you know, being a Virgo, a lot of times Virgos, you know, we're perfect people. No, I'm just kidding. We're not perfect. At least I'm not. But a lot of times with being a Virgo, I'm very much someone who feels out the room first, and then I'm like, okay, how much can I act a fool in this situation? And that's how I was with my blog and my like YouTube channel. I was kind of like reserved, and then I was like, all right, how much of me can I put in? And and being in it for so long, I realized that one of the biggest things for me was Insta stories, because I'm like, wow. Like, I can, like, get on here, my makeup doesn't have to be done, I can just get on here real quick and say something. And I think that was one of the things that really turned everything for me when it came to engagement and brand deals and things like that, when I was able to be myself, you know? So I think there's a lot of equity in being yourself, because here's the thing, you may think like you're some weirdo or whatever, but I guarantee you show that weirdness out there on the internet, you're gonna have a whole community of weirdos who would just like you.
Well, my name is Michaela, as you know. I'm not from New York, and I feel like I kind of just fell into this in a way to brand myself, because I really wanted to do acting. So when I moved to New York, that's what I was doing, and I was going to school at HB Studios. And then I got really broke, and naturally I actually went to school for accounting and management information systems. So at that time I went to a Marshall's audition and to be like in this commercial, and I was like, I memorized my lines, I was so excited, I was very like just happy to even get this audition. And I didn't get it, but they were like, oh well, how many followers do you have? And I'm like, why does that matter actually then? I'm so confused. And then that's like the time that you're talking about where Instagram kind of mattered. Instagram started growing and brands started growing. Like, you think about someone like Shay Mitchell, she's getting paid way more than her counterparts because she has such a brand on her own outside of being able to be an actor, right? So then that's kind of the only reason why I started, but I wasn't taking it like seriously. I was just like, well, I want to have fun on Instagram, and while I'm having fun, I can grow something and still make money as I'm working as an accountant and trying to balance both. And then, like, my first job was actually with you when we did the film. That was my first job, the Family Dollar Colgate thing. And I was just like, I remember I was at work and we have like these boardrooms and you have to have a call before.
Yeah.
The woman asked me for a W-9. I was like, why? Like, I'll do this for free. And also she's like, what's your rates? I'm like, I don't have any rates. What are you talking about? Because I wasn't thinking that people were getting paid for this. So I was like, this is really weird, but it's on Saturday, so it works. I don't have to call out of work. This is great. And then it was like a cool thing. And then that's when I realized, oh, people are actually getting paid to do this. Let me like take it a little bit more seriously. But I didn't really have the time to invest to take it seriously because work was like serious. But anyways, last year, 2018, I guess at the end of 2018, I quit my job, being inspired by like people like you guys. And I've known Kia for so long. She was also very like inspiring to me. And I realized like New York is a different lifestyle than where I come from in the suburbs, where in the suburbs you work, you have kids really early, you get married, and also like traditionally with my culture, it's like that's what you do at the age of like 24. It's like you graduate, all right, when you get married, when you're gonna have a baby, like you know what I mean? You know? And like I feel like in New York you have these people that just are so inspiring and dreams are like it's a thing.
Yeah.
So I think that after last year, my first year being like freelance and like taking this seriously, I feel like my life changed and I believed in myself so much more because the impossible happened. I feel like I came in with my culture because that to me is very important. But because the way that I was raised to be very proud of who I am, where I come from. My parents are immigrants and like I talk about that as much as I can. Like even from my name, how I used to say my name, Michaela, and it's an English version, but then like I did that only to, I guess, make everybody else's life easier around me and more comfortable and easier. But then when I grew up and I started to know myself a little bit more, one, it's a part of who I am, and I think that culture has made my brand a thing. Like I got hired for like this Caribbean smooth liquor and stuff. I'm like, I honestly know why you hired me. I'm not stupid, but things like that. And I think that people in this room are very inspiring, and I think we kind of all are inspired by one another and seeing things like growth, and it's like, oh wow, you did that? Wow, I didn't know that influencers were going on that route, but now it's on a whole nother level. Yeah. And I think that, so that's
speaking of you and the name, because I'm Michaela.
She's not having so I think I was 19 when I met you.
She was the first person
which
to
is
give me my first opportunity to go speak at a college to talk about natural hair.
Because I was watching her videos. I was like, she needs to come to our school. I don't know what the budget is, but we have to find a budget for her. Yeah.
So yeah,
I love
twice I came. And so the first time I was introduced to her was via email. So one of my best friends' her name is Michaela. Yeah. So similar things. I'm like, okay, Michaela. So the whole time, like I've known this girl for like 5 years. Michaela. Then it was either you, I think it was you, and you was like Mika. I'm like, who is Mika? Michaela, who is that? And then she was like, I made the correlation. I was like, girl, why you didn't tell me that that's how you pronounce your name? I was like, don't do that. I was so upset because I don't know. Michaela is just she's a nice girl.
Oh, stop.
She's not from New York. I always say that. She's not from New York, but it's very nice. And so, I don't know, I couldn't relate to that, but I always try to put my foot in other people's shoes. Yeah. And just, she's not from here, but she's very nice. And not everybody is like you. When you grow up in New York, you have this tough skin. Like, you're just like, nobody's going to talk to me any kind of way. People are going to pronounce my name correct. It's like, even for me, people say Kaya, and I'm just like, there's a whole car company spelled the same exact Kia. You still want to say Kaya. So it's just like, I couldn't understand that, but I do understand just making people comfortable and just not wanting to.
I think for me growing up, it was more of like an identity thing. Also, like, English wasn't my first language, although I was born in the States. Like, my parents were immigrants, and like, I think I also was like raised with so many white people and like having to conform. Like, I didn't have to, but I felt like I needed to. Yeah. And like my mom would give me like rice and beans for lunch to go to school. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Do you know where I'm at? And I didn't feel like, even my last name is like super French, and it's like once the teacher gets to my name, it's like, I'm like, I'm here. I just like would get so embarrassed, and I'm like, I'm more so comfortable in who I am. And I think when I was younger, I wasn't. I was just so uncomfortable being uncomfortable. Yeah. and I didn't want to be the girl, like I'm already the one black girl, the brown girl in the class, and I didn't want to be that person that's like, I'm already getting attention just sitting down, and now you're gonna talk about what I'm eating, you're gonna talk about my hair, you're gonna talk about how do you say your name, where are you from, and I'm like, I don't want to do this. Yep, you can call me whatever you want. My name's Masela. Nice to meet you. You know, I've been called that too. Like, I'm just like, I'm sorry, I don't know first name. I'm just like, whatever. You know?
I was like waiting for someone to do it.
I'm sorry.
It's cool. No, it's whatever.
But yeah, I just like did it. But also like moving to New York, kind of like seeing the way people moved and like, you know, it's not just Uggs. And even like you would wear the most basic thing in Mass and like everyone's like, where are you going? Why are you so dressed up? Like, why are you wearing eyeliner? Like, this is crazy. Like, you know, I'm not wearing Uggs and tights and the North Face because I don't want to.
That's mad
so like,
funny.
it's like very standard living in the suburbs. Like, you know, like it's just what it is. And then now when you come to New York, you kind of already had, to be in New York already, you gotta be spicy. You gotta, just to say I'm gonna take a leap and be here. Everyone here has a little spice to them. Right. But you find, at least for me, I found out more who I was. Because you knew me in my teen. I was like 19 when I met you, and now I'm 28. Right. You know what I mean? I feel like you've seen me develop. Like, I was just like this girl, I was always shy, and now I'm like, hey, you know what I mean? I can be shy sometimes, but I feel like out of everyone in this room, you've seen me on another level, and I'm more comfortable with like who I am as a woman, who I am as a person, and I'm not afraid to like be myself.
Because there were two things that you had mentioned, things that you wanted to talk about, being plus size in this industry and being a woman of color that's plus size in this industry. You're a model, like you're popping. Like, so I kind of want you to talk about that and like your journey, and anyone else who wants to chime in because we're kind of all like models a little bit.
So I definitely started off as an influencer, a natural hair influencer, and I moved into modeling through Instagram. And being a plus size model, that's not what I planned at all. I didn't see it when I was younger, and when I did see it, the first recognized plus size model was white. So I never thought I could be a plus size model, so I just stick to the selfies on Instagram. And then I won a contest on Instagram, and I got a 2-year contract with an agency, and that started my whole journey. And I felt like I was thrown into that industry out of nowhere. I did not know how to navigate through the plus size industry. It was very new. It was still growing as far as brands accepting bigger bodies. So while the industry grew, I grew as well. And I learned a lot. I learned that brands are scared to hire plus size women. And if they do, they're gonna hire the plus size white woman before they hire the plus size woman of color. So I definitely seen that. And of course now brands are becoming open to it, but I also feel like sometimes I'm the quota, like, oh, the plus size fat girl, let's put her in, and she's a woman of color. So sometimes I do feel that, but I mean, that's why I have my platform. And I try to use it as much as I can and speak out on certain things, like the Victoria's Secret and the comments that were made. But it's hard. It's hard, these castings and being, sometimes I'm the only fat girl in a room of white, straight size models. And that will take a toll on me. And I will have to, they will have to bring their A game, but I have to bring it on even more. I have to make sure I'm presentable, because being a bigger person, it's like, they also look at us as sloppy. And I have to really like, okay, I have to make sure my hair is good. What I'm wearing is suitable for my body shape. Like, I really have to put on my A game more than anyone else in the room. So it's something I'm still dealing with. It also brought up a lot of issues like anxiety, like I spoke about. So I'm still dealing with it, but I feel like I am now knowing how to maneuver through the space.
I feel like you can kind of speak this because you're a stylist and you have a brand. So you're a stylist and you're a brand. So like, how do you kind of navigate being, or incorporating diversity and sizing, and just when you're brought into a room to style other women, what is that like for you from your point of view?
So one of the jobs I had, it was to style for Eating Body Works, and I had 3 models of completely different sizes. So my first thing is to always talk to the models. What are you comfortable in? What are you not comfortable in? What do you like to show? What do you not like to show? What are your favorite parts of your body? So I always have those conversations, because I don't want to just pull things that the model is going to hate or feel uncomfortable in, you know. They got to feel good in order to look good on camera. So that's always the first thing I ask. And then I also have them come over for a fitting because, you know, just make sure everything fits, make sure you feel good and everything so that it's not a surprise when they get on set and they can feel good and they can move and they can, you know, feel their best. So that's a huge thing for me is always making sure I ask those questions, whatever client I work with. So now I do more personal work. So I work with clients who are doing branding photo shoots or they have an event to go to or they need a style for an appearance. So like I said, I always have those conversations with them right off the bat because the most important thing is for them to feel their best in order to present their best.
I feel like that's so important because I feel like most of us have probably been on a shoot or two and like
Always been. I don't think I've ever been on a campaign that I liked.
No.
From hair to
From hair is always something
Or
like
when you show up and they don't have your size and they're looking like, it's not my problem that you don't fit it. I'm like, why did you cast me then?
been so many times where I'm like, I need you to send me 3 sizes of these pants because y'all don't cut for me. Like I need to find the right pair of pants like in these between the 6 to 10 that's gonna fit for me. And
Which that's so crazy. Like the sizing from 6 to 10, especially when you have hips. You get on set. Oh yeah, you're size 8. Am I though? This is not fitting me.
Exactly. My waist may be, but the size ain't with it.
It's not working out.
That's at least a 10.
Yeah, so I feel like we've definitely all been there, like with sizing. And I've felt like just honestly just being a Black woman, period, that I have to bring my A game whenever I come on to a set because I, you know, like sometimes they don't always tell you who's going to be there, and I assume that I'm usually the only Black girl with natural hair, with blonde natural hair coming into it. So it's like I remember I was on set and the stylist told me, and I don't fault her for this, but she told me, she was like, you can't be too loud. So talking about my hair, like my hair can't be too big, and I'm like the bigger the hair, closer to God. So I wanted my hair to be huge, and she was like, no, you have to tone it down. She was like, this is not what the client is gonna want. But it's like, then why choose me? Because you ain't never seen me have small hair on Instagram, not never. So I feel like that's super relatable, you know, in all aspects. Walking into.
And speaking of hair, we always have to come with our hair already.
Yes.
Not because we want them with our hair. We don't trust them with our hair.
Ever.
But not even hair foundation. Yeah, hair foundation and brows.
Recently I did my eyebrows because I was
I
like,
just do my own makeup page.
just fix it up.
Yeah.
I be thinking it's a conspiracy, like they want the Black women to look dusty so they can stop tiring. I feel like that. I be feeling, I'm like, well, why you put me in this? You got her in this.
Yeah.
Look at my makeup. Look at the pictures you showed.
Good cloud.
You pick some pictures where I'm looking crazy, and I be like, let me see all the selects. Let me pick
Let me
the
see
one.
all
No.
the stuff. Seriously.
I honestly remember being on a set and they had nobody of color doing hair, right? And so I'm like, I'll do my hair, okay? And she's like, no, I do everybody. She's like,
Oh, they get
I have
offended.
shea moisture.
Okay. What does that mean?
I was like, oh my god. She would have bought shea moisture. She felt like
she was doing something.
Cover it. I was like,
It's just sad what they think that we want, and then they try to like indirectly make us feel bad because we want to look good.
Right.
I'm just like, I'm confused. No, I don't want you to touch my hair with a curling iron.
Yeah.
But why? I did her hair with a curling iron. What, like, I don't understand.
Right.
I had to ask a
Or
One time I had to tell a brand, like, look, y'all have all the Black people in America on your behind if you don't take this video down. Because I had this instance where, I can't say the brand, I won't say the brand.
you whisper it to me.
I'll tell you I'm gonna cancel it. So, and this particular brand had a recent, at the time, thing. So, so they hired me to come in as like a model, and this guy who had this lush office was like the makeup creative director or whatever he was, right? So beforehand, we had a good rapport. We were talking makeup, so I'm like, all right, phew, I'm good. So they're filming this video. I can't see what he's doing because he's doing the makeup on me as they're filming, right?
So no mirror.
No mirror, nothing. And I'm like, okay, we're doing a disco eye. So after we leave,
It's scary.
after we're done, I go to look in the mirror and I'm makeup done. Now, mind you, I know makeup,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes, you know, if there's a makeup artist, a good makeup artist, I'm like, here's his face, beat it.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I'll get my makeup done by someone else, and I don't like how it looks, but when I see the photos, it looks amazing.
Right.
So I was like, okay, maybe this is one of those moments. Don't panic. Don't, you know, calm down. You know, it's gonna be nice. So then the video comes out, right? First of all, homeboy had shimmery eyeshadow from here to here on my eye, right? Then I don't know what kind of lighting they use or lack of lighting they used.
Which is also
But
a problem.
I'm not saying this to be gas, but people compliment me on my skin all the time. In that video, I'm like, how did you make my skin look that? How? Like, how is it even possible? So when I saw the video, I immediately went to the PR people. I'm like, yeah, this does not look good. And they thought I was being a diva. I had to take a screenshot of what they made me look like in the video versus what I look like normally.
In real life.
And then I also had to say, y'all just got dragged. All the black people in America are gonna come for y'all, and they gonna come for me because they're gonna say, I allowed it to happen. And then they were like, okay. And then another thing is, I think one of the main things I was like, and y'all got a couple of the designer names misspelled, so you really need to take this down. So they finally took it down, but now I'm so traumatized by that experience that when someone asks me to do on-screen work, I'm like, okay, who's the makeup artist? Who's the hairstylist? Who's this person? Who's that person? Because you have to protect your image because it's like people on the outside watching these things and they look for the one black person. Some of them look for the one black person so they can talk down to them, but that's another story for another day. But they don't understand what goes on behind the scenes, and they think that, you know, like, oh, they just allowed those white folks to just make them look stupid. So it's like a lot going on because it's like we barely get hired for things, and we get hired for things, and then the people aren't prepared, and then we don't look our best, and then our own people like come down on us for, you know, looking undesirable on camera.
Money.
Right. They trying to get a check.
So, I mean, you know.
And like for me, like working behind the scenes, like I had an experience just being a manager at a company, and they're so gun ho about getting my photo on the website. They're like, "Can we get your photo on the website? Can we get your photo?" And it was like, I just got hired here. I'm not even out of my 90 days. I don't even know if I want to be here with y'all. You know, like all these things. So when it finally came down to the time to take the photo for the website, they're like, "Yeah, these shots are great." When they put it on the website without my consent or asking me like what it looked like, it was so washed out. I had the original photo because it was just like iPhone photo, and then the one on the website, they like pretty much lightened my skin, basically. So I don't know if they like. I'm not a photographer. I don't know.
They lightened it. They brightened the picture.
brightened the
They
photo.
put it in the
Yeah.
other back.
So like the color was just like off, and I was just like, look at the original. Look at what you put on the website. This has to come down today. Like, I know I'm hired in this company, but I also have my own personal reputation and brand to protect here. So if we can't take this down today, then we're gonna have to have it.
And you can't be scared of these people.
Yeah. Black people will drag you.
Yes.
They will drag you. Even if it's not your fault, they'd be like, they had you up there looking crazy. You'd be like, I didn't do it though.
I didn't do it. I didn't tell them to put it up. I was just like, okay, like get them off my back. Because they would even like throw it on my calendar, like photo shoot time. I was like, look, I have a call at this time with the client, so I can't do it. So I just would pack my day. I was avoiding this photo shoot because I knew instantly, like, if you're just asking me to like take this photo and I haven't even been here for 3 months, like, you're not really saying like, oh, this is inclusion for the team. It's more of like we have a black girl.
Yeah.
You should have been like, look, I need Beyonce's makeup artist, I need Beyonce's stylist, I need lighting, and then all this stuff. Make it a good photo shoot.
And so they actually now request if I'm doing a shoot and let's say they want you to repost something from the shoot, I ask for the option to post my own photo. So I'll have my own photographer take the photo the way I like it, just because I've had about 2 instances where I had to, like, contractually couldn't get out of it, had to post 2 photos that I felt were like
Horrible.
Yeah, and I'm just posting and I'm like, throw my phone away.
Right.
We're
trying to drown it out with other photos.
You know, like, I don't want to see, don't want to hear it. So I started doing that. If you can, like,
Yeah.
And you can't be
scared to ask for it.
I think that's the in between though, where now influencers are also influencers, models, and getting and dipping and dabbing. When you're an influencer, we all have our own platform. Everyone has their own brand, which is why you wanna, if you have to repost, it's like this is your page, it's going on this landing. But when you're a model, a lot of times you don't really have a voice.
And I think that's what that hairstylist is trying to say to me. Like, you're a model right now, but I'm like, but I have my own brand. And so
the thing is, as there's an influencer and then there's being a model set. And I've done both, where it's like when you're a model, you sign the contract, you're the brand, they want you to look how they want you to look. And if you're an influencer, where you're an influencer hired as an influencer model and it's gonna go on your page, that's a little bit different. But when you're a model, honey, you are not saying anything. Like unless you're, I don't know, Kendall Jenner or something like that, but like, I mean, you know what I mean? But even her sometimes is very limited. You know what I mean? I think that's where it's like, it's a little confusing.
Right. But I feel like it's our job to like be the outlet for it. I feel like a lot of people that are just starting, they have no idea, but I think that because we're doing this right now, like it's kind of giving them a heads up. So it's like great that we can sit down and be the outlet for that, because we don't want that to continue.
And that's why another reason I wanted to have this conversation, you had brought up the point about sharing and being able to have these conversations because it helps us collectively. And so I wanted to get your thoughts, everyone's thoughts, because, and do you feel like as a community that we share enough? Then our group of friends, I know that we share. But when you go out into a bigger space, I don't feel like we share enough. So I want to get your thoughts on if you are one to share, and if so, why not? And why don't you think just we collectively don't share? Because I feel like that's really important, especially with new people coming in, or with someone who just blew up really fast. It's like they're getting all these opportunities, but they don't even know how to navigate. Because I know, especially for the three of us, like, I was getting packages and I was like, yes, thank you so much for sending me a curl cream. I was like, baby girl, that was $9. This video was a whole lot more than that. So
I think first and foremost, I think we should share, but I think we should be very, very cautious and discerning about what we share, because I know Sin can probably speak more on this from a legal perspective. When you sign a contract, you're saying that you're not going to discuss rate, you're not going to discuss brand, any like of the specifics with anybody else. So we can give you gauges about how much you should be charging, but we can't say, this brand paid me this amount, I had to do this amount of deliverables. I mean, obviously, if I say it to you, I know it's in confidence because we have a relationship that's outside of this influencing stuff, or Nika, Tyler. And so, but when just saying it in general, as far as our community, as far as because we have that Facebook group, I'm not sure if a lot of you guys are probably wanting to blow up, but especially in writing, I don't think that's something that should be stated. Like this XYZ brand paid me this amount for this amount of deliverables.
Legally we can.
But I do think it's good to share, like, there's a certain, when you get to a certain point, for example, I'm very open about, like, I will not consider anything below a certain dollar amount. Like, just before you start with me, I wouldn't. And that's something I will share with people. It does get tricky because people don't always want to share, because what if you find out that you are at the bottom? Like, you put it out there, which is good, but then you feel stupid. Or you you tell someone where you are, and instead of it feeling like, oh, great, people start like, but why would this person be getting that much? So I think that's the reason why we don't share as much as we should. But for me, I think we're all better when we do share. I think having communities, identifying people who are like this, you come to things, you find people that you kind of connect with. And honestly, I've shared not what someone paid me, but I've shared where I start on DM all the time. Like, seriously, you DM me, you're like, I'm like, well, this is my range. I don't start below this number. If you're talking to them, there's specifics in the contract. There's usage. There's how long they're going to have it. There's all these specific terms that ultimately determine what your rate is. So if I just give you a rate, but you don't know
break
the
it
details,
down,
then you're not really getting the full picture.
But I think that's really important, because I'll never forget, like, the one time I was super burnt. Like, I did this campaign with this brand. I was all in stores, picture was everywhere, and I thought, I didn't have a manager at this point, and looking back, I was just like, first of all, they got so over on me because they only paid my day rate, and I was with other models. Like, I was the only person that wasn't signed. So they got away with just paying me my day rate versus usage, exclusivity, rights, all that other kind of stuff that really goes in, especially when you're going to be in a campaign. That's where the money comes in.
Right.
That's where it's at. That exclusivity. So yeah, anytime I get an opportunity to talk about that, I don't bring up the specific brand, but most people can kind of figure it out. But I always talk about usage and exclusivity and the rights and all that other kind of stuff is the most important part of these brand collaborations, because even if you have 20,000 followers, but they want to put you on a billboard in Times Square, like they need to. Because that's telling other brands that you work with them, and that might mess up other opportunities for you.
I think sharing what these words mean are really important.
I was gonna say,
There's been a lot. There was a part of my life where I wasn't signed, and everyone was like, "Oh, we're whitelisting your content. Oh, we're whitelisting your content." I'm like, "Go ahead,
And then, thank you so much. I'm honored.
I know. I'm like, sure. And then I signed with my manager, and she was like, yeah, this whitelisting is gonna take this rate to a whole nother level. And I was just like, glad it was like 2 years where I was just giving this stuff for like $9. Really cool. But I think sharing those words with a lot of like women that are new to the space is really important, because chances are, like, a lot of these women are not even reading the contracts. They're just happy
read every contract, please.
Yeah, it's
they're
so
all
important.
different, and they hide stuff in there.
Of course.
I want to chime in on that because I'm relatively new to the space and I'm very good friends with Sin. And recently, I started getting obviously paid gigs, and it's funny because you get approached for stuff and you're like, oh my god, someone actually wants to pay me for something, and I'm really tiny, so I was shocked. I used to get a lot of freebies. I loved it. And then they hit me up for something. And I was like, oh, okay, how much do you even charge for this? And then I hit Sin up and she's like, oh my god, you need to put this way you need to start with. I'm like, oh my god, that's even more than my follower account. You know? I'm like, but cheeky, how could I even say? She's like, no, what they're asking for is a lot. And if they went to a model or an agency, they'll pay significantly more. So you can't think, you can't lowball yourself. So I'm like, okay, do you know what? I'm going to do this. And we were in a group chat. Everybody's like, go, Chini, do it. And I go in, and I send a message, close my eyes. I get a response like a few hours later, and like, I don't even want to read it because I'm thinking they will tell me, like, you know, go away. Yeah. And they're like, oh, wow, Chini, okay, we can walk at this rate based on everything you said, blah, blah, blah. And it was like more than my follower account. I was like, oh my god. And I go back to Sin, and she's like, okay, try and negotiate. I said, really? I shouldn't just take it? She's like, no, just try and negotiate. I'm like, oh my god. And I respond. And yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
That's
like,
and you have to see, it's not charity, right? They're coming to you for a reason.
Right.
So,
and I think that's the beginning because, you know, you're just so excited to get some free stuff. You're like, let me have it for those, like you said earlier, like, what? I love this brand.
Right. You want to know something though? Like, I think it is important that we share, but there's also that small part of it where, and I don't want this to come off like abrasive or mean or whatever, but sometimes there is a burden because when you're a black woman in a space and, you know, you get these kind of opportunities, you know, to me, I feel like it's the right thing to do to give back and to, you know, as you come up, you bring two up with you, or however the phrase goes. But sometimes there is that burden because people expect you to kind of like lay everything out for them. And I personally don't, like, if you're my friend or if we're close or if I know that you're a hard worker, I have no problems, right? Like, I cannot know you from a hole in the wall, but if I have that kind of connection or feel that energy from you, I have no problem sharing. But there is that burden sometimes where people who have no, like,
work ethic,
made no effort,
didn't even bother Google.
It takes a lot of your energy, and I do feel like when you do say to someone, as a matter of fact, what's the comedian? Oh God, what is her name? Not Tiffany Haddish, Instagram comedian.
On the real?
No,
JJP, love.
No, she was on the show. Yes.
Okay.
All right. So I don't know if she was serious in that. I couldn't, and I love Jess Hilarious. I couldn't think of. I don't know if she was being serious in that, like if it was a comedy skit or whatever. but it was something where she was asking someone, a business person, how did you get to where you are? And then the person kind of gave her a vague answer. And then she was like, no, but what steps did you specifically take? And the person still gave like a vague answer. Now, I don't know if this was just like, if she was being sarcastic or if she was like being dead ass, but I kind of feel like that kind of approach that people take, it's a burden on some people because you have to do your work and you have to do your work twice as hard as your white counterparts. And then on top of that, a big piece of you has to go back and be peeled back to people who aren't giving you, energy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Also,
Everybody's
people don't.
journey is different.
Yeah. And people don't realize how much work you put in to get that connect or that
Yeah,
job.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
there's some times where like you do so much organic content and pitching of yourself that people don't see, and then they're like, "Oh my God, Ty, you got that connect? Like, you trying to give me?" No, like I busted my ass exactly, and it's like to say it nicely.
How many
You have
cares
to,
I've gotten?
Right.
yeah, I'm like, there's so much behind the scenes that people don't see. Everyone works differently in this industry, and it's like there are people who are just sitting around and getting jobs, and there's other people who are like, I need this. This is my livelihood, so I'm going to do anything I can to get further.
Right.
And it's like that's where sharing is like it's not fair.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can share, but the thing is, I can share everything I did to get to this point.
But you won't do it.
You won't do it.
Right.
You're not me.
Exactly. And that's the big thing. You're not me.
Yep.
Right? Because I can
have
do
the same outcome.
It's not exactly. That's my thing. It's like you can definitely. I can tell you everything to do, but if you're not putting the hard work and the effort behind it, like we don't all have the same journey. Like you said, it's all different paths.
And I have to be honest. When people ask me questions, I go to their page, and honestly, if I don't see like you've done your homework, I'm probably not gonna respond. Especially if you don't like. If you send me a DM that says I've done all this, and I really see that this is someone who's making an effort on platforms. Oh my goodness, I want to give you everything, but you haven't even really tried.
Right.
Where do you want me to begin? Like.
And I think what messes it up, because I used to have like this small disdain for people who were faking the funk and selling all of these courses and you can do this. And, all you have to do is believe to achieve. And, like these are people who it's like, I'm like, how do you not see behind, like, it's like the Wizard of Oz. Like, how are you not seeing behind the facade? Because this person, if you're really looking at it, like, when was the last time they had a campaign? When was the last time they did this? And
they don't
because they get your money.
Right.
Now the thing is, it's like when you're a busy influencer, regardless if you have management or you don't, or you have a team or you don't, you're busy, you don't have time. And another thing that kind of annoys me sometimes is that like people, like you said, you look at the profile, they even have to do one step of the homework. A lot of the stuff that people ask, you can find it.
Google.
It's on YouTube. Like I wanted to figure out like a certain lighting situation. I could have, chewed the ears off of one of my photographer friends. But I'm like, no, let me try to figure this out on my own. I wanted to look into owning a franchise. There was a whole YouTube channel dedicated to franchises. There's so much information out there, and people aren't really taking the time to find it.
I just feel like I think when they follow you for a while, they feel like they have this sort of relationship.
In their head.
Exactly. And it's like, oh, she'll tell me. Let me just ask her. Instead, literally you can type the exact same question in Google and you'll probably get a quicker answer than sending me a DM.
Because it does take a lot of time to explain something to someone, like you said, going into like words like terms and usage, and it's like you can't just give a rate and then that's it. Or just any piece of information, because like you have to know the entirety of the puzzle.
And people don't realize rates like are calculated by a lot of different things. They're not just like you have 50K followers, so this is how much you are worth. It's not about that. It's about your resume, who you are, what you've done. Like people don't think about the whole picture. They're just like, I need this answer now.
I also think if you're passionate enough about it, then you figure things out. Like you know who you are. You're not going to be trying to copy other people. So I think the problem is everybody sees other people's success and tries to do the exact same thing, and they forget you're not that person. What are you passionate about? Focus on that, and then it becomes easier. And like you said, for someone like me, I've always been interested in this space, but I was too scared to actually do anything because you're always like, oh my God, I'll be judged and yada yada yada. And then when you now start figuring out what you bring to the table, you're more confident. So if somebody hits you up for a rate, you're like, I'm a mom, I have only so much time in my day. I'm not going to do something. I rather, if you're not going to pay me, I rather buy it and do whatever I want to do.
I would rather
Than
buy
you-
it.
Right.
It's the best.
Yeah,
And move on.
Yeah,